Hello YouTube, welcome to another Season 6 Patch 6.1 guide, and in this episode we are bringing you top lane Darius. Darius is a very tanky champion who also has a lot of damage in his kit as well. He's able to do a lot of annoying harass with his bleeds if he's able to use his passive properly. He's even a champion that's strong at every point in the game, and he can carry a team single-handedly as well. He's one of the few top laners that are tanky and can also carry a game at the same time. In this guide, we're going to cover his pros and cons, his masteries, runes, summoners, his abilities, his ability leveling order, his item build, and a bit of closing information as well. Now before we jump right into the guide, I'd like to say that you can go to egamingtv.com to view our other guides, or you can subscribe as well. You can also find us on Twitter at egaming_TV. We're going to start by hopping right into his pros and cons with the first pro, which is he has great 1v1 potential. Now what you just witnessed against Poppy shows his great 1v1 potential. Despite him not even getting off the first cripple, he still kills Poppy in a 1v1 rather easily. In a rather drawn out fight like you just saw, he can do a lot of damage with just his passive. With all of the other harass that his kit brings and the dunk he gets from his ultimate, it makes him a very strong 1v1er. Darius's next pro is that he's even got built-in sustain for when he's in the lane phase. Using his Q, which is what we max first, if he hits enemy champions with it, he gets a portion of his life back. As long as he's hitting his lane opponent with his Q, he's receiving 12% of his missing health back. And to top this skill off, it does a lot of damage and adds some bleeds as well. His next pro is that he's got an amazing passive. He's got a bleed which stacks and does bleed damage over 5 seconds, and if you hit somebody with an ability or an auto attack, it refreshes it as well. When you hit your 5 stacks, you get something called Noxian Might, which gives you between 40 and 200 bonus attack damage. If you're able to get 5 stacks in the lane phase, which isn't that hard depending on which champion you are against, you will end up getting Noxian Might, and then casually at level 1 basically have a BF sword. During that duration, of course, not anybody can really trade with you in the lane. Darius's next pro is that he can carry a team. Most tanky top laners aren't traditionally able to do this, but with all the damage he gets in his kit as well, and the resets on his ultimate, he can. Darius's final pro is that he's strong at all stages of the game. And this is what really makes him a great pick for the top lane. A lot of top laners say such as Garen, but then they fall off really hard late game to make up for that. But then there's Darius, who is a solid champion at all stages of the game. Therefore, you don't really have to be worried about your team being too early game, as if you say you had a Garen top and then a Lee Sin jungle, traditional champions that fall off late game. Darius kind of fits into every comp like that. With all the pros covered, that brings us right to our cons. The first one being he has some hard counters. Now some of these include Jace, Kayle, and Teemo. The reason these are hard counters for Darius is he struggles dealing with ranged champions, generally. Now, of course, the obvious explanation is, well, he's a melee champion, obviously he's going to get poked down by a ranged champion, but the main reason it's an issue is he doesn't really have a gap closer or anything. Sure, he's able to pull you and slow you, but that's not something he can always do. Jace can have very long range and he can run around with his gate and have really high movement speed, so he can't really catch him. Kayle has slows and heals that can increase her speed as well, so he can't really get to her as well. Teemo's just a little bastard. Even if you get to him, he can blind you. He has really high movement speed when he pops his W. He's just an annoying as fuck champion to face in the top lane. These all kind of bring us to our second con, which is he can be kited. He can have a rather frustrating time in the game if he's against Iceborne gauntlets and whatnot from ranged champions where he can't really move around that effectively. Darius is kind of the champion where if he can get to you, he's going to kick your ass. He just has to get there. Darius's third con is that he's got no hard CC. He only has slows in his kit. That's kind of another reason he can be kited so easily. It's if he does get to a champion. He can slow them, but he can't actually hold them. So if they flash or something and then increase their speed, they can get away anyways. Because of all of these cons, it is best to pick him in a team that already has a bunch of CC, like say you had an Amumu jungle. Darius's last con is that Season 6 AD carries are rather strong against you. And by Season 6 AD carries, I mean popular meta picks for AD carry. And those would be AD carries like Ezreal, Lucian, and Graves. And the reason that the Season 6 AD carries are so strong against him is that they do have escapes, they can slow, and all that annoying shit that Darius doesn't like. If he manages to get to them though, he'll just toss on a couple bleeds and dunk them. Now we land at our mastery page, which is 12 ferocity and 18 resolve. And before I move on, I would like to say that 18 cunning for the Thunderlord's Decree ability is a viable option as well if you're looking to do more damage. This is a very popular Korean build, however, because it does provide a lot more lane sustain. So we hop right into Ferocity by first getting Sorcery, so we get 2% increased ability damage. Now I like this one over the 4% attack speed because it does increase your dunk kill potential, but the attack speed is also very good if you are looking to apply bleeds a little bit faster. I then move into Double-Edged Sword, so I deal 3% additional damage and take 1.5% additional damage. Taking a little bit more damage isn't that big of a deal as Darius since you are rather tanky, but dealing 3% is very nice. It makes your bleeds more annoying, and your dunk kill threshold is a bit better as well. Then move into Vampirism for 2% lifesteal and Spell Vamp for a bit more lane sustain. We then get Oppressor, so we deal 2.5% increased damage to targets with impaired movement. Now Bounty Hunter is a fine pick as well, however we do have a slow in our kit, so we usually will be doing 2.5% increased damage. We then move into the Resolve side, getting Recovery for 2 health per 5 seconds, and this just helps with our lane sustain a bit more. We follow that up with Tough Skin, so we take 2 less damage from champion and neutral monster basic attacks. Now 2 less damage is very small when you look at it, but it does help in the lane a little bit. We then get Runic Armor, so shields, healing, regeneration, and lifesteal are 8% stronger. This works very nice with all the regeneration we get, but it's very nice with our Q, which gives us large portion of health back. We follow that up with Insight, so it reduces the cooldown of our summoner spells by 15%. Teleport and Flash are rather long cooldown summoner spells, so it's especially nice for those 2 abilities. We then move into Swiftness, so we get 15% Tenacity and Slow Resist. Since Darius can be kited so easily, this is very nice for him. We don't get slowed for as long, and we get out of CCs faster as well. For our last ability, we get Grasp of the Undying, so every 4 seconds in combat, your next attack against an enemy champion steals life equal to 3% of your maximum health. Now this is great, obviously because it just leeches you a little bit of health in the lane, but Darius also has a high max health pool, so he is getting large portions of health back. Now as you can see from this mastery tree, this is to help basically survive in the top lane. If you were against a top laner you know you could bully the shit out of, then I would take Thunderlord's Decree so you could maximize your kill potential on that target. I do, however, find myself taking Grasp of the Undying a lot more often than Thunderlord's Decree. As for Darius' runes, we basically take the traditional AD carry runes, which are 9 greater marks of attack damage, 9 greater glyphs of magic resist, 9 greater seals of armor, and 3 greater quintessences of attack speed. The one alternative I would have to this, if you were facing an AP top, would be to take greater seals of scaling health as your yellows, so you would have more health to deal with that target. This would synergize very nicely with your Q, which does heal you for a percentage of your missing health. Other than that, these are the runes you'd want to take because it makes you rather tanky and adds some nice attack damage and speed as well. For our summoners, we take the traditional Teleport and Flash. We take Flash because it's used for chasing, escaping, repositioning, and many more things as well. Teleport, on the other hand, allows you to push lanes while still being able to make it to team fights if you're needed. If used correctly, it can secure kills as well as objectives for your team. And to be honest, I wouldn't really take any other summoners but these. Of course, if you do take Ignite, your kill potential does go up. However, Teleport is very nice to help your team around the map. If you are able to teleport to a lane which does have multiple low targets after a team fight, you are able to go LeBron James on it and keep dunking over and over. With all of that stuff out of the way, we're going to jump right into his abilities, starting with his really annoying passive, which is called Hemorrhage. Darius' basic attacks and damaging abilities cause enemies to bleed for 10 to 27 based on level, plus 30% bonus AD physical damage over 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times, for a maximum of 50 to 135 based on level, plus 150% bonus AD physical damage over the duration. Upon applying full hemorrhage stacks to an enemy champion or killing them with Noxian Guillotine, which is your ultimate, Darius gains Noxian Might for 5 seconds. And Noxian Might is the buff I was talking about in the very beginning. Darius gains 40 to 200 based on level, bonus attack damage, and instantly applies full hemorrhage stacks through his usual means. Now there was a lot to that passive, but let's break it down piece by piece. So the first part is, it is a bleed that stacks 5 times and lasts 5 seconds. And this is applied by, like it says, your damaging abilities and basic attacks. Now as long as you are able to apply a new stack before the 5 seconds, it will refresh of course the duration and go up a stack. Now because your lane opponent is trying to get last hits of course, it is rather easy, depending on your champion you are fighting, to get these stacks on them. Of course they also have the option of getting zoned and not getting any CS, but that's their choice. So this is the main ability that allows Darius to bully his opponents in the top lane 1v1. Either you take a shitload of bleed damage or you get zoned the entire top lane. Best part of this ability, however, is the Noxian Might. When you have this, you instantly apply full hemorrhage stacks, meaning of course 5 whenever you hit somebody. So as long as you're able to dunk one target, if you auto attack the next target, they will get 5 stacks, you'll be able to ult them for the full damage and then do it over and over again, assuming you are killing them with Noxian Guillotine. I'll go into this more in depth when we actually get to your ultimate page, why you do want 5 stacks, so we will bring that up again in a second, but that pretty much covers what this passive is. Now that brings us right to our Q, which is called Decimate. Darius hefts his axe for 0.75 seconds, then swings it around himself, dealing physical damage to nearby enemies, doubled against enemies hit by the blade. The physical damage is between 20 and 80, plus between 50 and 70% AD, and like it says, it is doubled if you are hit by the blade. Darius heals for 12% missing health for each enemy champion hit by Decimate's blade, up to a maximum of 36% missing health. The range of your blade is 425, but the range of your basically handle is 220, so you have to try to hit them between that range there. The cost goes from 30 to 50 mana, and the cooldown starts at 9 seconds and loses 1 second every level and ends up at 5 seconds. This is a great ability because it does do a lot of physical damage, and it gives him a portion of his missing health back as well. This is why we max this one first. This will take a little bit of getting used to though, because you are trying to hit them with the blade. You're going to have to try to keep a distance between yourself and the enemy champion, but not too far of a distance. As long as you're able to hit your lane opponent with this blade over and over again, you are going to get a lot of health back during your lane phase and be dishing out a lot of damage. It's also a great farming tool for him if he does need to clear large minion waves. However, the best part about it is getting all the missing health back. It's of course great in team fights as well. If you are hitting at least 3 people, you are getting the maximum of 36% missing health, which does give him some nice health return in the middle of team fights. Darius's next basic ability is called Crippling Strike and is his W. Darius's next basic attack gains range and deals 40% AD bonus physical damage and slows his target by 90% for 1 second. If Crippling Strike kills its target, it refunds 30 mana and half of its cooldown. Crippling Strike resets Darius's auto attack timer as well. The range is 200, the cost is 30 mana, and the cooldown starts at 9 seconds, losing a second every rank and ending at 5 seconds. Usually you don't take this at level 1, however we did when we were fighting Poppy at level 1, so we could slow her and get off more attacks since it does reset your auto attack timer. If you auto attack, then do this, then auto attack really fast after, you're able to get a really fast 3 stacks on your target. Obviously this can give you a huge advantage in a 1v1 situation at a low level. This is a pretty solid ability, however the AD does not go up with level, the only thing that actually changes is the cooldown. Because of all of these, this is the last skill we max. We only need 1 in it, so we actually get the slow. Darius's last basic ability is E and is called Apprehend, and the passive part is Darius ignores a portion of his target's armor, and the armor penetration starts at 5% and gains 5% every level, ending up, of course, at 25%. After a brief delay, Darius pulls in all enemies in front of him, slowing them by 40% for 1 second, and briefly grants sight of the area around the pull. The range is 550, the cost is 45 mana, and the cooldown is between 24 and 12 seconds. Now this is technically a slow, although it doesn't really feel like it because you're pulling in your target, and in that time it doesn't really seem like they're slowed, but it does increase the damage from your mastery. The best part about this ability is that you get 25% built-in armor penetration as a passive. That means as Darius, you don't really have to get an armor penetration item, although we do get a black cleaver, but you do get a bunch of nice armor penetration in your kit already anyways. With this and a black cleaver, you're able to penetrate large portions of armor, and there's no point getting a Last Whisper or anything like that. Because of the armor penetration you get from this, and the cooldown going down a lot per level, we max this second right after our Q. This would be another thing in his kit which wouldn't be classed as a hard CC, but it does provide a nice little slow and pull. That brings us to our ultimate, which is called Noxian Guillotine and gives Darius the nickname the Dunk Master. Darius dashes to the target enemy champion and attempts to execute them, dealing true damage, and the true damage is between 100 and 300, plus 75% bonus AD. For each stack of Hemorrhage on the target, Noxian Guillotine's damage is increased by 20% up to 100% bonus damage. The bonus damage per stack is between 20 and 60, plus 15% bonus AD, and the maximum true damage is between 200 and 600, plus 150% bonus AD. Now this right here is the reason I was saying we need to get our 5 stacks on before we actually do this attack. Obviously, if your target's insanely low, then that doesn't even matter, but we are trying to get the stacks on if we are unsure about the kill threshold. With 5 stacks in level 16 ult, 600 plus 150% bonus AD true damage is a huge amount of damage. And if you remember, as long as we have killed one target, we will get a bunch of AD, and we will automatically apply 5 stacks if we hit them with just one ability or auto attack. If Noxian Guillotine kills its target, Darius causes all nearby minions and monsters to flee in terror for 3 seconds, and it can be recast within the next 20 seconds at no additional cost. At rank 3, Noxian Guillotine's cooldown resets completely. This can occur multiple times in succession. The range is 460, the cost goes from 100 to 100 to 0 mana, and the cooldown goes from 120 to 100 to 80 seconds. And the first thing you have to be wary of is that at level 3 is when the cooldown resets completely and can be used over and over and over and over. At rank 1 and 2 of the ability, it has to be cast a second time within 20 seconds, otherwise it will go on the large cooldown again. You can still delete multiple targets, however you do have a time frame. With each ability covered, we're going to look at his ability leveling order, and it starts with Noxian Guillotine, which is your ultimate. You take it whenever you can, meaning 6, 11, and 16. You follow this up with Decimate, which is your Q. You take it at level 1, and it is your main leveling priority, so you take it at 1, 4, 5, 7, and 9. We then follow this up with Apprehend. We take it at level 3, and it is second in priority, so we take it at 3, 8, 10, 12, and 13. Lastly is Crippling Strike, which is your W. You take it at level 2 for the slow, and it is last in priority, so you take it at 2, 14, 15, 17, and 18. Now the last thing we're going to look at on our Darius guide is his item build, and it starts with a Corrupting Potion. This is a great item in the top lane because it does increase your sustain a lot, it gives you some mana as well, and it adds a nice little burn on top of your bleeds to annoy your opponent even more. We then rush right into a Black Cleaver because it's great for reducing armor with Darius's AoE kind of built-in kit. And with this and the armor penetration you get from your Apprehend, you actually get a ton of armor penetration. We then move right into the Boots of Swiftness because it's great for getting to people to dunk them. This gives you a bunch of movement speed, of course, as well on your boots, and you do get a bit of slow resist, which is very nice so you don't get kited so hard. Now, assuming you are against an AP top or there is some AP champions around the map, say mid and jungle, we then get a Spirit Visage. This is great because it does give you increases from your healing, so your Q actually becomes much stronger when you actually get this item. It's not just for the magic resist. It does, however, add a lot of nice magic resist, health, and cooldown reduction, making it even better. We then move into Sterex Gauge because it adds some nice damage and an amazing shield to avoid getting bursted as well when you take a bunch of your health in a burst. We then finish up with some strong armor items like the Dead Man's Plate and Randuin's. Both are great items because they give you tons of health, armor, and nice little activates / passives as well. Some alternatives to this would be an Iceborne Gauntlet. It's not a very popular item, but some Dariuses actually do take this item. The reason it's not taken a lot is because you do have slows in your kit, but this can add some nice slow as well to keep people near you. There's of course nothing wrong with adding a bit more armor into your kit as well. A good alternative to either the Dead Man's Plate or Randuin's if you were against an AP heavy team would be a Maw. This is a great item because it adds some damage, magic resist, and an activated shield when low, so it's hard to finish you off with magic damage. Another great item if you are against an AP team as well would be a Banshee's Veil. An alternative if you were against a very AD heavy team would be a Thornmail. Since you are a tanky top laner and you're trying to get obviously the resistances for the types of damage you will be facing, your build will usually be different game to game. However, this core build is good against a team with a good AD-AP split. All in all, Darius is a tanky top laner which can actually dish out tons of damage as well, meaning he can actually carry games pretty good. His kit's not that hard to understand either, and he doesn't have a ton of outplay potential, so he's not that skill-based of a champion. Because of this, of course, he is a good top laner to learn early on if you are somewhat new to the top lane. That pretty much covers it for our Darius guide for Season 6, Patch 6.1. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you would like to view more of our guides, please go to www.egamingtv.com, and of course you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you guys would like to send us any comments, of course you can do that on YouTube, or you can do it on our Contact Us page on our website, or of course you can go to Twitter at egaming_TV. I'd like to thank you guys again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this guide, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.